Goggles, the Bear Who Dreamed of Flying, written by Jonathan Gunston, illustrated by Richard Robinson. Let the story begin. There once was a very small bear who dreamed of flying. Everyone told him he was too little to fly, but he always wore flying goggles, just in case they changed their minds, which is why all his family called him Goggles. He dreamed about flying while eating breakfast. He dreamed about flying when tucked up in bed. He even dreamed about flying in the bath. And he always took a jar of honey with him, because all that flying can make a bear hungry. But even though Goggles was a very small bear, he knew a very big secret. His grandparents, Growlville and Wilma Wright, had built an airplane. They called it the Wright Flyer. They wanted to be the first bears to fly, but couldn't find an airplane fuel that would work. On the first try, it crunched into a tree. On the second try, it crashed into a haystack. On the third try, it ran into a pond. Splush! If only they could find the right flying fuel. They tried lemonade, but it was too fizzy. They tried custard, but it was too gluggy. And ketchup was too slurpy and chocolate too gooey. Then one day, Goggles had a great idea for fuel. He whispered it to Grandpa. Can you guess what it was? Honey! At last the plane would fly. The great day arrived for the first flight of the honey-powered Wright Flyer. Takeoff was at sunrise, and a big crowd was invited to watch. Goggles wanted to fly too, but everyone said it was too dangerous. So, while no one was looking, he sneaked into the back of the airplane. Shh! Grandpa Growlville started the engine. The propeller whizzed and whirred. The Wright Flyer began to move faster and faster, and then the plane soared into the bright blue sky. Zoom! Higher and higher it flew. Soon they were sailing around the clouds. It was so beautiful. But then, disaster! The Wright Flyer ran out of honey and began to fall from the sky. If only we had more fuel, cried Grandma Wilma. Suddenly, Goggles popped up from his hiding place. Emergency honey! He shouted. Grandma had no time to be shocked to see him. She quickly poured the honey into the fuel tank. The engine spluttered, then roared back to life. Vroom! The airplane flew safely back to the bare field and landed in front of the cheering crowd. Grandpa announced that Goggles had saved the day. The crowd cheered even more loudly, but Goggles just smiled and waved. He was happy his grandparents were safe, and what's more, he was one of the Wright bears, the first bears to fly. The end. Next, the famous flyers who inspired this story. The Wright brothers, first humans to fly. First flight of the Wright Flyer at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The Wright brothers dreamed of being the first people in the world to fly. They built a plane they called the Wright Flyer. At first it failed to fly, but they kept on trying, and on 17 December 1903, it flew for the very first time. This book was inspired by their courage, determination, and their amazing achievement.